Have you ever walked away from a conversation, only to realize the other person just played you without you even noticing? What if you could do the same, without manipulation, without force, and without anyone seeing it coming? The truth is, the smartest people in the room are almost never the loudest. They don't flex their intelligence. They don't argue to prove their point. They let others reveal themselves. They watch, they listen, and they win, not by overpowering, but by outsmarting, quietly and effectively. In this video, you'll discover 5 Stoic-inspired strategies that allow you to outthink, outmaneuver, and outclass almost anyone, without ever looking like you're trying. Whether it's in conversations, relationships, or high-stakes decisions, these rules will help you read people deeper, hold your frame stronger, and move through life with clarity that most never even develop. Number 1. See without emotion. If you truly want to outsmart everyone without them realizing it, you have to start by mastering the hardest battlefield of all, your own emotions. Most people think strategy is about reading others, but the truth is the greatest weakness you'll ever face is inside yourself. People lose not because they lack intelligence, but because they let their emotions cloud their judgment. You can have the sharpest mind in the world, but if you're ruled by anger, fear, or pride, you'll always make sloppy decisions that give away your position before the real game even begins. Think about it. How many times have you walked away from an argument, a meeting, or a conversation, and later realized you gave away far too much? You spoke too soon, you reacted too fast, you showed your cards without even knowing it. Why? Because your emotions hijacked your ability to see what was really happening. You felt offended. You felt disrespected. You felt the need to defend yourself. And in that moment, you stopped thinking clearly. You stopped reading the room. You stopped noticing the subtle cues that could have helped you win. This is why the Stoics, especially Marcus Aurelius, trained themselves to detach from their emotional impulses. Marcus wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." That wasn't a motivational quote. That was a tactical rule for survival. He knew the world would trigger him. People would lie. They would insult him. They would try to manipulate him. But none of that mattered unless he reacted emotionally. His real power wasn't in controlling others. It was in controlling himself long enough to see the bigger picture. When you practice emotional detachment, you start to develop what I call strategic distance. You no longer stand in the middle of the emotional storm, getting pushed and pulled by every feeling that rises. You step outside of it. You observe it. You let yourself feel the anger, the fear, the pressure. But you don't move. You don't speak. You don't act. You wait. You breathe. You study the situation while everyone else is busy showing their hand. And here's what happens when you do that. You start to notice everything they don't want you to see. You see the little cracks in their story. You hear the nervous laughter when they're unsure. You catch the forced confidence when they're bluffing. You sense the hesitation when they're hiding something. Every tiny signal becomes visible because you're not rushing to defend yourself. You're not reacting, you're reading, and the more they talk, the more they reveal. They think they're controlling the conversation, but they're actually handing you all the information you need to win. Because while they're trying to get you to respond emotionally, you're sitting there, silently collecting data, building a complete map of their intentions, their weaknesses, and their blind spots. This is where the real advantage is gained. Not through dominance, not through louder words or stronger arguments, but through quiet observation. You let them burn all their energy trying to trigger you, while you conserve yours, watching them reveal their entire strategy. And when the moment is right, you don't need to overpower them. You simply move with precision, using the truth they've already exposed to take control of the moment. This is how the sharpest minds outmaneuver the rest of the world without ever looking like they're trying. It's not about emotionless living. It's about emotional mastery. It's about choosing when to feel and when to step back and see. Because the person who sees the most clearly, without being blinded by their own reactions, is the person who quietly wins the game that everyone else didn't even realize they were playing. Number 2, step outside your own mind. Most people go through life trapped in their own perspective. They only see what they want to see. They only hear what confirms what they already believe. They move through conversations and situations as if they're the main character in a story, where everyone else is just playing a background role. And that's exactly why they miss what's really happening around them. If you want to quietly outsmart others, you have to develop the rare ability to step outside yourself. You have to see yourself, not as you think you are, but as you actually appear to others. This is called third-person awareness. It's like mentally stepping out of your own body and watching yourself from across the room. When you do this, you start noticing something most people never do: the gap between your intention and your impact. Maybe you think you're coming across as confident, but from the outside, you look defensive and insecure. Maybe you believe you're being helpful, but others experience you as controlling or overbearing. Maybe you think you're leading, but people see you as pushing too hard. The truth is, the way you experience yourself on the inside almost never matches how people experience you on the outside. And if you can't step outside yourself to check that gap, you'll keep losing influence without even knowing why. The Stoics taught this through the practice of self-examination. Seneca once said, "We should bring our whole life under review." What he meant was simple: watch yourself as if you were someone else. Look at your actions, look at your words, look at your habits. Don't judge them emotionally, don't justify them. Just observe them with brutal honesty. When you start doing this, you'll notice patterns. You'll catch yourself falling into the same emotional loops, trying to prove your worth, trying to win people's approval, trying to control how you're seen. And once you see those patterns, you can start changing them. You can make small adjustments that make you sharper, clearer, and more effective without anyone realizing you've leveled up. You also start to become hyper-aware of how others experience you in real time. You begin reading the room not just for what they are doing, but for how you are showing up in their eyes. You'll notice when you're talking too much. You'll catch yourself when your energy shifts from composed to desperate. You'll sense when your words are landing or when you're starting to lose them. This self-awareness allows you to adjust on the fly, to correct your energy, your tone, your posture, and your presence without looking insecure or needy. And here's the hidden advantage. Most people are so trapped in their own heads that they never stop to consider how they actually come across. They just keep pushing, defending, performing, unaware that they're slowly losing respect, trust, or influence. But you move like someone who sees both sides of the mirror. You don't just observe others, you observe yourself. You sharpen your ability to adapt in real time. You adjust not from insecurity, but from awareness. This makes you extremely difficult to read and nearly impossible to manipulate. Because while others are stuck playing the same emotional patterns on repeat, you're moving in a different way. You're aware of the whole field. You're playing on multiple levels. And the more you practice this kind of detached self-observation, the more you start to control not just how you think you're being perceived, but how you actually shape the moment. That's how you start to take quiet control, by stepping outside your own mind, seeing yourself clearly and adjusting your presence with precision. Number 3. Let silence lead the room. One of the most underrated forms of power is silence. Most people are terrified of it. The moment there's even a second of awkward pause, they rush to fill it. They over-explain. They start rambling. They reveal things they never intended to share. And that's exactly why silence, when used correctly, becomes one of the most devastating tools in your arsenal. You've probably felt this before. You're in a conversation, maybe a negotiation or even a personal conflict, and someone goes silent after you speak. You feel the pressure building. The tension starts eating at you. Your mind starts racing with thoughts like, did I say something wrong? Should I explain more? Should I fill the gap before it gets uncomfortable? That pressure you feel, that's the power of controlled silence. And once you learn how to sit in it without flinching, you control the rhythm of every interaction. The reason silence is so powerful is because it creates a vacuum, and human nature hates a vacuum. We are wired to fill gaps, to relieve tension, to end awkwardness as fast as possible. But here's what the masters understand. The one who is willing to hold the silence without breaking is the one who controls the frame. You don't have to argue louder. You don't have to explain more. You just have to let the silence do the heavy lifting for you. The Stoics practiced this through the discipline of restraint. Epictetus taught that you should only speak when your words are better than silence. He wasn't saying you should avoid speaking altogether. He was saying that silence, when used strategically, makes your words land harder. It builds gravity around what you choose to say. And when you master that timing, knowing when to speak and when to hold back, you shift from chasing influence to commanding it. When you enter a room and you don't rush to fill the air with nervous energy, people notice. When someone challenges you and you don't immediately defend yourself, people lean in. When you pause before answering a difficult question, people feel the weight of your presence. Silence makes people uncomfortable because it forces them to sit with their own thoughts. And in that space, they reveal themselves. They try to guess what you're thinking. They start showing their emotional cards. They fill in the gaps with information you didn't even have to ask. And here's the best part. While they're scrambling to break the tension, you're gathering control. You're watching how they handle pressure. You're seeing who flinches first. You're letting them work to close the gap while you sit calmly, fully in control of the moment. This doesn't just make you look powerful. It makes you powerful because you're not reacting to their pace. You're forcing them to adjust to yours. So the next time you feel the urge to speak just to fill space, stop yourself. Let the silence stretch just a little longer than feels comfortable. Hold your frame. Watch what happens. You'll notice something amazing. People will start revealing things, adjusting their behavior, or trying to win your attention without even realizing they're doing it. That's when you know you've flipped the dynamic. You've let silence lead the room. Number 4, read the unseen rhythm of life. Most people are blind to patterns. They wake up, go through their day, and react to whatever life throws at them. They think life is random. They think people's actions are unpredictable. They think, Situations just happen. But this is only because they've never trained themselves to read the rhythm underneath it all. The rhythm that reveals what's coming next before it happens. Everything in life follows patterns. People repeat themselves. Situations cycle. Human behavior, as complicated as it seems on the surface, actually follows very predictable rhythms once you know what to look for. The problem is, most people are so focused on reacting to what's happening right now, they never take a step back to study the invisible patterns shaping it all. The Stoics understood this. Marcus Aurelius wrote about observing the movements of the stars as if running along with them. What he meant wasn't astrology. It was pattern recognition. He saw that nature has a rhythm. People have habits. Events have cycles. And if you can start noticing those cycles, you can start predicting what others can't even see coming. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're in a business negotiation. The other person seems to switch between being aggressive and then backing off. Most people would react emotionally to that, getting defensive when the pressure is high and then relaxing when it eases. But if you step back and watch the rhythm, you'll start to see the pattern. Maybe every time they apply pressure, they're actually feeling insecure about their position. Maybe every time they go quiet, they're testing if you'll fold first. Once you read the cycle, you stop reacting to the surface behavior and start controlling the deeper rhythm. This applies to relationships too. People fall into emotional loops. They pull away when they're scared. They seek validation when they're insecure. They repeat patterns they don't even realize they're repeating. And if you're blind to those patterns, you'll get dragged into their emotional roller coaster. But if you see the rhythm, you can step outside of it. You can hold your ground. You can respond, not to their immediate behavior, but to the pattern behind it. Reading the rhythm of life also helps you spot long-term consequences before they hit. Most people only see the next move. They don't ask, and then what? They don't think ahead. They don't look for the chain reaction their decisions are about to trigger. But when you start reading the rhythm, you stop getting trapped in short-term thinking. You start seeing how today's small choices ripple into tomorrow's big results. You start making moves that look invisible to others, but in reality, position you perfectly for what's coming next. And here's the secret. Once you learn to see these rhythms, people will think you're lucky. They'll think you're naturally intuitive. They'll have no idea that you've been silently reading the game the entire time. While they're stumbling through life reacting to chaos, you'll be moving with quiet precision. Always one step ahead because you've trained yourself to read what they can't even see. So pay attention, watch the patterns, study the cycles, learn the rhythm. Because once you do, you'll stop getting surprised by life and start shaping it in your favor. Number 5. Mirror, but don't mimic. Connect with authentic empathy. One of the most misunderstood skills in human interaction is mirroring. Some people hear the word and immediately think of cheap manipulation tactics, copying someone's body language, repeating their words, or pretending to agree just to build fake rapport. But true mirroring, when done with authentic empathy, isn't manipulation at all. It's one of the most powerful ways to disarm people's defenses and gain deeper insight into how they truly think and feel. Most people are deeply guarded. They wear social masks. They build emotional walls. They don't reveal what they're really thinking because they don't feel seen, heard, or understood. But when you mirror someone, not by copying their surface behavior, but by tuning into their emotional state and showing them that you get where they're coming from, You create instant connection. You make them feel safe. And when people feel safe, they open up. They start revealing things they normally hide. They tell you their real fears, their real motives, and their real insecurities, without even realizing they're doing it. The fourth mistake most people make is trying too hard. They force the mirroring. They fake agreement. They overdo the body language cues. And because it feels unnatural, it actually backfires. People sense the manipulation. They pull back even harder. This is why you have to mirror with empathy, not mimic with tactics. It's not about copying someone's posture or parroting their words. It's about listening so deeply that you start to reflect their emotional world, not their physical gestures. For example, if someone is anxious, you don't ramp up your energy to match theirs. You ground yourself. You slow your pace. You create space for their anxiety to settle. If someone is excited, you meet their energy with genuine curiosity. If someone is skeptical, you acknowledge their doubts without trying to force them to agree with you. This is authentic mirroring. It shows you're paying attention, not trying to control them, but simply seeing them for who they are in that moment. The Stoics were masters of this. They didn't rush to argue or dominate people. They practiced what Epictetus called listening with the intention to understand, not to reply. They let people reveal themselves. They mirrored the emotional tone of the moment, not by faking agreement, but by holding space for the other person's experience to fully surface. And when that experience surfaced, they could respond with clarity, wisdom, and influence. When you mirror with empathy, you lower people's defenses without them even noticing. You become someone they trust, someone they open up to. And as they reveal more, you gain the upper hand, not by tricking them, but by understanding them better than they understand themselves. You gather information no one else can access because while others are trying to win, you're simply connecting. And that connection gives you insights that allow you to move with precision. So don't mimic, don't perform, don't play cheap mind games. Instead, learn to listen with depth. Mirror people's emotional reality, not their surface behavior. Show them you see them without needing to control them. And in that quiet space of trust, you'll gather all the power you need to lead the moment without anyone realizing you've already taken control. Most people try to outsmart others by being louder or faster. But the truth is, real power is quiet. It's rooted in clarity, not noise. When you can see without emotion, step outside yourself, control the room with silence, read hidden patterns, and connect with real empathy, you become someone others can't predict or control. This is how you move 2 steps ahead, without making it obvious. This is how you win without forcing the game. If you found this valuable, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And make sure to subscribe for more Stoic strategies to help you master your mind and protect your peace.